Bombers sock it to Redblacks in soggy blowout. In a game delayed 20 minutes at the start because of heavy winds and pelting rain and with a storm watch in effect for the area, the Redblacks lost 29-9 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Friday night. Blue Bombers 29, Redblacks 9. Winnipeg, it didn't just rain for the Ottawa Redblacks, it poured. In a game delayed 20 minutes at the start because of heavy winds and pelting rain and with a storm watch in effect for the area, the Redblacks lost 29-9 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Friday night. A Toronto Argonauts win against the Montreal Alouettes on Saturday would, then, knock the Redblacks 5-8-1 back into second place in the Canadian Football League's East Division standings. The Bombers 9-3-0 are second in the West. The Blue Bombers defeated the Redblacks 33-30 at TD Place Stadium on August 4. Friday's game was nothing like that. For the most part, whatever could go wrong for the Ottawa side did go wrong. Other than the running of William Powell, who dashed for 107 yards, the Redblacks couldn't generate much offence against a Winnipeg defence that had allowed an average of 31.3 points per game. Third-string QB Ryan Lindley, getting the start after injuries to Trevor Harris and Drew Tate in the previous two games, couldn't find a rhythm, but he also didn't get help from his receivers. For the game, Lindley had 151 yards in passing. The Bombers put up 283 yards of offense in the first half alone. It was crap. I didn't play well, Lindley said. I didn't help us win the game. I didn't hit my spots. When asked about his team's performance, Redblacks head coach Rick Campbell said, "We weren't able to make any big plays to get momentum on our side. We were hanging in there. It was still a game in the second half, but we never found a way to make plays to get it done. We weren't good enough tonight." Speaking about Lindley, Campbell added, "He was having some trouble gripping the ball in the wet weather. I know he's going to say he wishes he'd played better, but I also know all the other guys would say they wished they played better, too. Good teams find a way to pick each other up, make a catch when it needs to be made. All of us, as a group, fell short." Winnipeg took a 3-0 lead 9:52 into the first quarter with a 27-yard Justin Medlock field goal. The Redblacks got a point back when Brett Mayer's punt travelled 65 yards for a single. After another Winnipeg drive was stopped by a nice defensive play by Sherrod Baltimore and a sack by Adrian James, the Bombers settled for a 37-yard field goal 2:34 into the second quarter. Winnipeg QB Matt Nichols, who wound up with 319 yards passing, scrambled around in the pocket, evaded a couple of defenders and connected with Darvin Adams for a 37-yard plays to Ottawa's 47-yard line. But the defense held and the Bombers punted, with Ottawa taking over on its own 12. The Redblacks marched downfield, thanks largely to the running of Powell, and made it 6-2 when a Mayer punt travelled 70 yards through the back of the end zone for a single. Nichols later found Clarence Denmark open behind Nick Taylor for a 40-yard pass connection. On the next play, Weston Dressler took a handoff on a sweep and scooted 18 yards around the right end. But the Bombers again settled for a field goal, this time from 25 yards out, with 3:01 left in the first half. On the Redblacks' next possession, the ball was ripped out of Powell's hands as he fought for more yardage and the Bombers pounced on the fumble at Ottawa's 35-yard line. 3 plays later, Andrew Harris ran 24 yards into the end zone and, with the convert, the Bombers led 16-2. In the third quarter, a 22-yard dash by Harris and a 16-yard run by Ryan Langford on another sweep, with a horse collar tackle penalty against the Redblacks tacked on, moved Winnipeg to Ottawa's 4-yard line. On the next play, Timothy Flanders fought off a couple of tacklers and found the end zone. It was 22-2 with the convert failing after a botched snap. With nearly 10 minutes gone in the third quarter, the Redblacks finally got into Winnipeg territory, but Mayer missed a 46-yard field goal attempt wide left for another single point. Ottawa at least got some momentum a minute into the fourth quarter, when the ball slipped out of Nichols' hand into those of Jonathan Newsom. A couple of plays later, however, the ball slipped out of Lindley's hands and Winnipeg took over on its own 23. Shortly after that, Nichols heaved a long pass that Darvin Adams caught behind coverage and he completed a 75-yard scoring play. With under 7 minutes to go, Lindley got into a bit of a groove, throwing 4 consecutive completions. With 5:16 left, the Redblacks tossed the challenge flag and a roughing the passer penalty moved the ball to Winnipeg's 11. Powell ran into the end zone on the next play for a touchdown, but the 2-point convert attempt was stopped, leaving the score at 29-9. Brad Napoli recovered an onside kickoff, giving the Redblacks a flicker of hope with 4:25 left. Greg Ellingson then got his hands on a long Lindley pass, but the ball bounced into the hands of Winnipeg's Mo Leggett for an interception. Second and long, the Redblacks scratchers were Moss's Madhu Jr. and Anthony Gosselin. Ottawa's Zach Evans was flagged for roughing Nichols midway through the first quarter. Instead of a sack, the Redblacks took a 15-yard penalty for helmet-to-helmet contact. The end around, the Redblacks flirted with their worst-ever point total for a single game. Back on the 11th of October of 2014, the expansion season, they lost 41-3 to the BC Lions in Vancouver. There were a lot of rain ponchos and more empty seats. Large sections were practically empty at Investors Group Field. Attendance was announced at 26,588.